Well, let's talk about the third approach that is open to you as a type of research paper for this class. This is the trickiest one. Maybe tricky is not the right word, but it's the one that can challenge you if the first two options of just the purely informational paper and then the persuasive paper are options that you're really kind of bored with, or you don't necessarily think they're going to challenge you and make you grow the way you want to grow. Okay. The observational paper is simply a paper that's main goal is to create interest, maintain it, and reward it. And it needs also to be nonfiction, so you're actually writing about something, all right, in your life, in America, in society, and it could be in other countries too, but in media, in education, I don't know. But what happens here is, you're living life, you're reading, you're watching, you're thinking, you're talking, you're being a human, and you might begin to wonder about things. You might begin to notice things, and you actually have sort of a theory about something, or an observation. That's why I call it the observational paper. This is the third approach open to you here in this class, is the observational paper. You're just observing. You're observing life, and you come up with an observation that you do not really see anybody else having. It's unique to you. Now, please understand, I'm not asking for something foundationally profound or paradigm shifting or earth shattering. It's not E equals MC squared here, but it's a thought that you had that was just like, well, that actually might explain it, or that's something that I see. And when you search for it online, or when you talk to other people, you realize that the thought is kind of unique to you, however kind of small or weird it is. And when you stumble across that, when you're able to articulate that, put it in its context, explain to me what it is, and then either try to explain it or call for further research or something like that, it could be a pretty good piece. Remember, you might, I'm trying to shift a little bit on the language on us, right? You might be saying, well, I'm writing a writing assignment, right? And I need to know what the instructions are because I want to get a good grade, and I want to write this to the teacher. The teacher's going to grade it, and I'm going to get my points. So tell me what the writing assignment is. I want to do it. Okay. I don't like using that language because that locks you into the classroom. At that point, you're just doing the work for the classroom. You're doing it for the grade, for the points. I know that, yes, you need to make a good grade in the class and all that, but if you're writing just that way, you're never going to learn how to write something that can live on its own outside the walls of the classroom. Because out there, the text competes for existence. Why would anybody want that? Why would anybody want to read about this if Wikipedia is going to do a better job for it? If one YouTube video is going to tell people more about what your informational paper is saying, and in a better way, why would you ever write it? It's not going to exist out there. It's not going to compete in that public space of consumption, right? Now, you would write it for me to get a grade, and I'd be like, sure, if that's going to help you do this class, go for it. But that's not going to train you how to be an author, right? That can write material, shorter pieces that people actually want to read out there because they can't get it anywhere else. And because it creates interest, it maintains it, and it rewards it. Now, the virtue of the observational piece is that it doesn't necessarily engage the established or preset prejudices or preconceptions or belief systems that might already be entrenched in someone. We all are like this. This is how we function. This is part of our mental apparatus. And a persuasive paper sometimes touches those nerves and sometimes, when a persuasive paper really only works to the fifth group of people that I didn't mention. When I did that spectrum in the video about the persuasive paper, I said there's the yes but people, and then there's the no but people, and then there are the people that are kind of a little inward of those sides, the yes but excuse me, I'm sorry, I don't know if I did this correctly, but on the two ends are the yes exclamation mark people, like yes all the way, or the no exclamation mark, like no all the way. But then in the middle you have the yes but, well, maybe in some cases the no side is right, and for the no you have the no for the main part, no, but there might be some exceptions. So you have these two camps that are more compromising and a little more mixed, right? But see, if you're in any one of those camps, you're probably in there because you've done a lot of thinking about this, because it aligns with other beliefs that you hold, like your religious belief or your moral belief or your patriotic belief or your uh, philosophical belief. I mean, some people are more materialistic, more mentalistic, more. There could be a whole range of things that are already preset that show up, manifest themselves by placing the person in one of these camps over a certain particular issue, but the drivers behind that positioning are actually deep set, right? And so when you write a persuasive paper, you rarely connect with any of these groups other than the ones that are already with you, okay? So it's sort of an echo chamber thing, right? The group that might be affected by your writing is that the one right in the middle, which is the disinterested group, the one that just doesn't really have a stance one way or the other. You see what I'm saying? So if you need, in a democratic system, if you need votes, if you need more people on your side, you usually try to go to that group in the middle and you try to educate them, you try to convince them, but these are the ones that you have a chance with, right? It's very hard to convince someone from one of these four camps established already to come over to yours. So persuasive writing is kind of tricky. It doesn't necessarily create interest, maintain it, reward it, because of the dynamics that are already involved with other things like pre-existing beliefs, deeper beliefs on the nature of being, the nature of morality, the nature of truth, the nature of knowing, and also religious beliefs. So really, if you learn how to write the observational paper, you can really produce quite a lot and consistently get good readership, because you are trying to just talk about some thing that you noticed that might be something other people have noticed, and you would like to discuss this. Okay, so I'll give you a couple examples in a little bit, but remember that the point here of the persuasive, the observational paper is not necessarily to persuade anybody of anything. It's to create interest, maintain it, get them to start reading your piece, get them to keep on reading it, maintain the interest, and then at the end, make them feel like that was worth their time, that was a good piece, that was interesting, that was rewarding. I used the word. That was, they got something out of it. If nothing else, they got to consider a question they might not have thought about before. Okay? So, I do a lot of driving around the cities. I do a lot. And, sometimes I'm at a stop sign, and obviously there's someone I would say obviously, but we all have had the experience, I think, where there's someone there maybe asking for change or for a meal, or they have a sign that says, I need some money. Would you spare some money? And I always try to give a little bit if I can. Sometimes I admit it's a bit awkward, and I'd try to roll my window. Or if I'm not up in the front, maybe I'm glad I'm in the back. But there are times when I'm like, nobody knows. I mean, maybe one day I might. I don't know. How would I like it if I were trying and no one ever gave me anything? So, even though I know sometimes I guess I could get gypped out of this, I would rather give $1 and keep something alive of kindness in here, right? Than to just never give and say, well, I'm never going to get fooled. But I digress. The point is, I got interested in their signs, because a lot of these signs said, God bless, God bless, God bless. And that's a question here, because for the Western view of God, if you're sitting on the street corner asking people for 50 cents for a cup of coffee, a lot of people might say, well, God has not blessed you, right? Now people might say, well, the blessings go deeper. The blessings are a spiritual blessing. And yes, I understand that. But at one point, no food, no roof over your head. How can you ask God to bless me when you obviously need the blessing so much more and you don't have it in that way? This basic blessing of shelter or of food. So, I want to know what they think about that. Okay. Now, I'm going to make a pause here and say, look, for the observational paper, your job is to create interest, maintain it, reward it. It's not necessarily to answer questions, although if you do have an answer that you want to propose, go for it. But I don't know if anybody has even thought that way about those signs when they see God bless. There's a contradiction there. You see what I'm saying? There's a contradiction there. And I want to know what the homeless person does with that contradiction. Now, not every sign has that phrase. So, I would have to narrow my selection to the signs that do, right? And then I would have to how would I go about actually getting the person's insight on this? I would have to do a lot of interviewing, right? And at this point, for this class, for this type of paper, that's way too much work. So there goes that there goes that design, right? I'm not going to be interviewing people for this at this level of writing for this class, right? So then I might say, well, has anybody just mentioned about the contradiction? So I might be able to write this paper on a philosophical level and just say, I think there's a contradiction here, and I could end my question with my essay, my piece, with a big question like, what's going on with this? What could be the possible answers? How would we find this? I might not ever actually produce the results in the paper because that's not. I would be taking an approach, but that's not my job there. My job is to create interest, maintain it, reward it. And maybe I have just a small space somewhere, and I'm just introducing the question. You see what I'm saying? I'm just introducing the contradiction. But that would be a paper in itself, okay? But let's keep up with this, and let's just move on to another example. What if I decided to research the homeless signs, right? Because I'm like, well, I want to research homelessness, or I want to write about homelessness. It's way too big. It's way too big. It's huge. So now I got to find a very narrow topic to do this, and I might be like, well, what if I researched the signs? What if I looked at the rhetoric of the signs? Right? What if I really looked at the God bless part? Now, again, the approach might be, well, what if I talk to the people that made the signs? But then all of a sudden I'm spending gas, time, interviews, and how many do I need to interview to make it credible? 20? No, that's way too much work. So I've got to switch my approach here. Forget talking to them. What if I just analyze the signs qua signs or as signs? Now, where would I get my information? Am I going to drive around town and take pictures? I could. If I were to situate it in a particular town, I might have to. But if I just decide to look online in Google and type in homeless signs images or whatever, I could get 10,000 images. Okay, now this is Google online. So what if I switch my research approach to say, I'm just going to research how homeless signs are represented online. Now I don't have to be driving around, and my research, that's the focus. So in the title, I would mention that. I would mention about the cardboard rhetoric on the line on the net or something. I don't know. I would have to get my readers to understand that I was just looking at how we represent pictures of these signs to ourselves online, because who's uploading these pictures? If you go look for homeless, and again, I'm using that word very loosely. Okay, these people probably have homes. What do we call them? Sidewalk signs, corner signs? I don't know. The help me signs, the cardboard signs. If you go and just find images of those online, you're going to see a ton of them. But who uploaded the images? I really doubt it's the person that's sitting at that corner. I think it's someone else who took a picture and then uploaded it. So it's us. It's not me, but it's us. We are the ones that are taking pictures of the signs and uploading it. And if I go onto Google and I find that 50% of the signs are humorous or witty, and those are the ones that are getting put up there that way, and that the other 50% are too fractured. Some are about homeless veterans, some are about religion, some are about pregnancies, right? They're kind of serious, they're kind of not, but they're fractured, right? So they're not like I'm a vet one might be 25% of the signs, right? But a big honking chunk, 50% are these witty signs, these humorous signs, are these signs that were meant to make you laugh. Okay, then all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? We're using humor. We, the one with the camera, the one who's sitting in the car taking the pictures, is trying to laugh this off. Okay, I might go that way, right? I might go that way to explain what's happening online, right? Now, I can come up with a theoretical explanation that might not be utterly convincing to anyone, but it has to just make sense. It has to be presented as a possible explanation to why this is there. And I'm not really trying to prove anything to anybody. I'm just trying to create interest, maintain it, reward it, right? And it with an essay that is nonfiction. So you can create entertainment reward with a Looney Tunes video or a cartoon or something, right? But no, here this is the genre, and how are you going to do it this way? So for the observational paper, it may really help to start off with a question, a genuine question that you have. I'll tell you one right now. Why are we, as college professors, why are we afraid of artificial intelligence, especially writing professors? I truly believe you need to be AI literate by the time you hit your job. And if you don't practice this in college, where are you going to get it? In a serious, structured, accountable way. So, and it's been shown, you can find this information, that a lot of college professors use AI to make their assignments and also to do the grading. So why are we using it and we don't let you use it? Okay. I want to know why. I really do. And, if you think about that and you come up with an answer, there you go. I would say that's a great observational paper. You're trying to make an observation about something. You're trying to write about something in a way where it doesn't, if you can capture someone's interest and keep it, they're not going to feel at the end that you wasted their time or that it didn't go anywhere, right? You don't necessarily have to. One method is to just think of curious questions you have and then ask yourself, has anyone answered this? Look online. Has anyone answered it? If you don't find a good answer, come up with one. That's your paper, okay? Or sometimes if you can't come up with an answer, it's just framing the question right, okay? And maybe it's a question no one has asked, and you can frame it, and your paper might just be giving someone a new question that is in the air, but no one has actually asked the right sort of way. Maybe it's developing a new word that you think is a useful word. Maybe it's pointing out the opposite of something. I don't know. There could be all sorts of things you can do with observational papers. And if you're interested in this approach, you should talk with me. I can give you some more direction one-on-one. Again, this is not something you have to do. But one thing, you can do one of the other two types, the informational or the research paper. But one thing about the observational paper is it does stress originality. You're going to have to come up with something that is genuinely your thought, your solution to something, your observation. Okay, and if you can do that, right? If you can do that, then that is something that might help you grow as an author, because you're not just writing to me as an assignment. You're really trying to write something interesting and readable that can exist on its own in a space where people don't have to read your work. Okay, this is something that just occurred to me just right now. Okay, now other than Fort Knox and the local bank's vault, why is it that many high-powered financial institutions like to be housed in buildings that are made out of glass? There's a lot of glass that seems to be connected with banks, investment banks, and financial powerhouses. I don't know if that's right or wrong, because you need to look at the ratios there, but it does seem to me that somehow glass is playing a role here in the architecture of this type of building more so than other types of buildings. When you start off with an observational paper, many times you don't necessarily know where you're going. And then you try to read about it, you try to think about it. But could there be something there with the promise of transparency? and money handling. I don't know. Why are the glasses tilted or often mirrored? That could be something else as well. Um, so that's a thought. That's a thought. There are a lot of these. I have a whole stack of possible topics that could work for observational papers, but I'm obviously not going to talk about them in this video. I'm just throwing the idea out there as an option. If you're interested in this, then why don't you contact me and let me know, and I'll try to help you think of or I can maybe give you a little bit more information on this. All right, thank you for watching.